If you are watching this, please share it with your grandmother and show us her response. Tweet it at us. We want to see what Gma thinks about big content or just what she thinks about us. Until next time.
Welcome back to a non-air conditioned office. I think I got him. I saw a head turn. I saw a head turn. What do you mean?
He was just wondering what was going on in here.
Yeah, that's enough. That's enough for me. I didn't expect him to jump or anything. He's a grown-ass man. What do we get? What do those grown-ass men have on the docket today?
On the docket today, first of all, happy birthday.
Thank you.
Big 3-1.
Correct. I love that you thought it was 30.
Who wears 31 in the league? Not Jamal Williams.
Like a jersey
is 30.
number?
Yeah. There's got to be a famous 31. Moser, did he wear 31?
Ooh, he feels like a 31 guy.
Yeah.
I don't know. Numbers are not a good thing for me when it comes to jerseys.
Running backs are obviously like 28, 29, 30, 31, 32. But I actually feel like 31 is like the rare number within that subset. That's probably the rarest. But you're 31.
What was the point of that?
It was just, you tie it to the number of how old you are. You're old. Get over it.
Execution.
So what year did you write that blog about life?
I wrote
You've
that.
written two?
I've written one, and it was when the year turned 2020. So, like, the decade looking back wasn't like my 20 or 30-year-old.
Right.
It was like the decade of 2010 to 2020.
Okay, so it was a decade looking back.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed that piece. If you guys don't know what I'm talking about, where could they even find it?
It's pinned on my Twitter.
Pinned on Nick's Twitter.
If I one day unpin it, I don't even know if I know where to find it again, to be honest with you.
Like is it on your website?
It's on a website somewhere, but
it's not your website. It's on like some WordPress or random site.
It's on like a Shopify site, I think, at this point, but I'm not even sure if it's on our Shopify site.
But I have a Shopify site? Yeah, that's not where you hide content.
Yeah, no. I think the only way to find it is through my pinned tweet.
Okay. Well, anyways, go to Nick's Twitter. He wrote this amazing thing that I thoroughly enjoyed. It was kind of looking back on the past decade, everything you learned, everything that you know about, all that good stuff. But so I guess we're not getting a blog. I thought it was like every year, every few years you write it. I guess
it needs spacing. It needs spacing.
Right.
I need to learn more lessons.
Okay,
because I did it 3 years ago.
But 10 years of spacing, that's a lot. But you're a long-term guy.
That's what will make it powerful.
I know.
I don't blog ever, but if I hit the keyboard, once every 10 years, it could be big.
It is powerful, and it'll be on Shopify. And in 7 years,
it'll be in a Shopify store near you. Saw that. I'm fucking dialed in right now.
7 years from now, what will it be on? It'll go from Shopify to what?
Probably be like augmented reality. You'll be able to sit down on this couch with me and me like talking to you like this. Yeah.
What have you learned in the past year?
Woo! The past year.
Yeah, just 1 year, since 30 to 31.
In the past year, I care way less about. I'm definitely a meaner person.
Really?
But in a good way. Not like I'm not intentionally mean. Like I'm not a douchebag. But like if I care a lot less about like people's kind of excuses for why things aren't the way they are. And I'm just like, this is what it is. I want to get from point A to B, and you explaining a bunch of bullshit on the way there. If you're like in the way, I'm like, I don't care. That's kind of where I'm at. And I honestly feel like that has helped me narrow down a lot of different avenues in my life where I would allow, allow like empathy, which is a great trait to have, but it can be dangerous, I think, if you allow all of your decision making through empathy, because then you start to just think of the way the other person does, right? And then you only side with them over yourself. You know what I mean? And it's like a lack of respect for yourself in a sense. So I think I've been able to narrow down like what I'm looking for in every facet of my life, and I'm not afraid to like project that onto other people. So like you're not the right person for this, whether it's significant other or it's people that I'm working with or people that I'm doing projects with or whatever. I'm not afraid to like speak my mind on those things anymore, because in the long term, it's like if people can't handle that, then they're not the type of people I want to be around in the first place anyways. If I'm trying to get to like the next level, right? If you can't take criticism or you can't realize that not everybody is for everything, then like you're not the right person for me, So I've just come way more in tune with like who I am and what I want and how to get there.
It's interesting because obviously you take the lane of you're not for me. I don't think that every person in your life is going to be that type of person, or maybe you only do want to surround yourself, but it feels like a very specific type of person, and then maybe you just surround yourself with the same type of people. Do you have that worry at all?
No, because I guess in some assets I do look around that I'm like, maybe I'm like too
Ruthless
specific
is probably
with,
the word
maybe
I would use.
Yeah, like I with work, I'm completely fine with that. There are some assets like in like my dating life for sure. I'm extremely picky with girls that I'll date a lot, right? But like there are very few times I'm like, this is the kind of person I can see myself like dating further into the future, and I am very picky and very precise with it. It's a lot of it because I just don't want to spend my energy and time in places that I already think I have a feeling. But I've been wrong on that stuff before, where I'm like, oh, I don't think this is right, and then 6 months down the line, I'm like, holy shit, imagine I just like cut it off there. But I think the more you know yourself, the more, you know, specific things are kind of like triggers for you, and you're like, that's not, I've been down this road before. And the older you get, I'm very, very old, you know?
No.
Very, very wise.
Yeah, you are very wise. No, I think that it is a good point of view to have, and you essentially cut the fat, and you cut through the bullshit of a lot of life, and it'll get you much further. It'll put you in a place where you want to be. I think there will be times in your life where, I mean, maybe I'm projecting and thinking from experience, like, I value that trait from you. Like, I genuinely enjoy how straight to the point you are. Like, we enjoy that. I know with Hallie, it just would never work in a million years because she just physically could not go about life that way. So I think it's just something that I'm offering as kind of like in the back of your mind. Know who you are, what you want, but also, you know, a lot of leadership, I feel like, is people management at the end of the day.
And I think I've managed that way for a long time as well.
From the people in our room right here, you've definitely found the people that fit that. I wonder if one day there will be someone who could drive your business so far because they're a creative mastermind or they're the smartest fancy person in the room, and they just like cannot work under the pressure or the realness of. And you might say that maybe they're not for us, but maybe they are, and you just have to kind of adjust to them a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I try to. Again, like empathy is not my driving force anymore. That's the biggest takeaway. Is like I no longer use it as the driving force. Where for a long time I felt like I actually did that, and now it's a tool with which I can put context behind and understand. Like these kids are young, right? Like these kids are 22 to 25. So I expect a lot, but like I don't think I ever push it over the edge. Where like you don't do this thing, and that's the end of it for you. But if I do that, it's like prefaced with a lot of lead up to that point. So I'm at the point where now I feel like I've done more screening work to know that the people that I'm putting in those positions will be able to handle it. And if not, like hopefully I know the pressure points to push to get them there. I expect greatness, honestly, from everyone that I work with from here on out. And
even who you live with, want to be with. I get that. And I think that you're not unfair with what you're doing either. Like if you were like, get this done by this time, and it was completely unreasonable, then you cut them, you're like, I don't have time for your excuses. That would be different.
Right. Like all the meetings I have to prepare for it is always like, here's what I think you can do. Like, do you have concerns about this? If not, we could switch it. And then like 2 weeks down the line, we'll check again and be like, what's your workload like right now? Is this good? Do we need to pull back? Can I give you more or whatever? So it is a constant check-in. You know what I mean? But like, if you're going to give me your word that like, oh, this is perfect for me. And then 2 weeks down the line, you're like, oh, I couldn't get it done. I'm like, you just told me it was perfect for you. So like, that's where I have a problem. But I try to communicate very clearly up front on these types of things now.
Fair enough. Okay. You're 31. Are you having a midlife crisis in any fashion? Have you seen your views on life change? Have you I even think over the past year, one thing that's kind of been not a roller coaster, but I've seen change from you is like, what your aspirations here are, what your aspirations long-term are, what, like, you know, one day you're like, I don't know, maybe if someone gave me a lot of money, I could flip this thing. And then one day you're like, it doesn't matter. There's no price.
I am, to be completely honest with you, dude, I was thinking about like big content as a whole. And the reason I think I wanted to start this podcast was, it wasn't necessarily because there was like an opportunity in the market. I was like, man, I just love talk. For me, it was almost like an outlet to get away from, not to get away from, but like something I enjoyed more than doing whatever we were doing in BDG. And now I'm at the point where like, I'm so busy and I'm so fulfilled by what we're doing inside that there's part of me that's like, if we skipped a week of big content, like I'd be fine with it, you know, or like multiple weeks. Like I was almost like, let me put it on the pause until I know exactly, you know, what we're doing going forward from a good standpoint. Because we've taken breaks before, but it's always been like, oh, there's too much shit going on. Like I need to figure this bad thing out or this bad thing out. Now I'm at a point where like I'm so fulfilled that I don't even know if I need like a secondary outlet or piece of expression for me right now. So I would say like the biggest change for me over the last year has been like I feel like I found my footing business wise, where I was kind of just like flailing around and fucking splashing in the ocean for you know a year and a half. I feel just very locked in and very straightforward with where I want to be. And over the last 6 months, like I've completely changed kind of how I'm operating. It's like I'm in bed very early, I'm up very early, and there was a large piece of me probably in my 20s that would fight back on that That would be like, that's not who you are. That wasn't like your identity when you were your late teens, early 20s, college, right out of college kind of thing. And I'm like, I'm trying to align like who I really am with where I want to be. And it's not an easy thing to do because you have a lot of like forces pulling you in different directions. And I think I'm on the precipice of like really accepting where I want to go and who I am, and kind of cutting out the rest of the stuff that doesn't really serve me anymore.
I think for me, it's this constant evolving. And I don't know why, but it felt like our identities were never supposed to evolve. And obviously they would with time, but more so in periods. It's like who you were in college, who you are in the working world, who your career is, who you are in family. But I've noticed even in just like 3-month spurts, like I'll completely change like what my values are, and that I think, is going to be funny looking back on content years and years from now of our takes and our opinions. Because like I said, 3 months ago, you made a comment that you were like, yeah, I could sell this thing. Today, you're like, no, I would never do anything like that, right? And I think that acceptance for me, like I'm in a phase right now where, I'm out in Fire Island the last couple weekends, out again this weekend. And I'm like, I have zero interest in drinking. Like not even, like we go out to the bar and I'm like, I could not want to be here any less. I want to have genuine talks, play cards, whatever it may be. And in 2 weeks, like I'll be in Alabama for the Texas game, and maybe all I want to do is forget about the game, right? Yeah. And I think it's just that acceptance of being able to evolve. So I think it will be funny looking back.
It's tough though,
content.
but when you're in those situations, you're like, I don't want to be at the bar. But then there's like the handful of the 10 people you're with that are like, can't wait to be out here till like 3 a.m. Yeah. There's part of you that feels like those people just like won't really be in my life anymore. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of like the tug of war I have with this lifestyle. I
think that's where I'm learning this acceptance, which is time and place for everyone. Yeah. Like it's not that I want to remove my college friends. It's just certain times where I have no interest in being with them. Yeah. And certain times where I'm like, you know what? This is actually exactly what I want to be doing. So I think that's just an interesting thought that I had. You're 31 in the last 10 years, I assume. When did you start doing content? And are you getting mad that I keep bringing up you're 31?
No, not at all. Okay. 2014, 2015 maybe.
So I'm calling it a decade, 21 to 31.
I will say when you sent over the sheet originally and you said it said on the top, I think it said like Nico Suave turns 30 or 31. Yeah. I was like, I didn't realize you were referring to me, and I was like, here's another fucking TikToker that I don't know who it is. You always bring, you're like, did you see what this guy did? I'm like, I don't know who that is. That's what I thought that was. I was like, here we go.
No, that's what I nicknamed you. Yeah, what's the best thing you've learned in 10 years of content?
Oh, my goodness. I really just think intention always plays itself out, like through the ups and downs. That would be like my biggest takeaway. It wasn't anything that I needed to learn, but it was more of just a confirmation playing through good times and bad times. Like I've always just kind of stuck the path of I'm saying what I need to say because it's just what I feel, and it feels like what I need to get out. And through good and bad, like that plays itself out over the long term. Like you might be going through bad shit, but if you're relatively a good person and you continue to show up that way, people are going to remember what you do over the long run. Like they're not going to, like things will happen where you're hated for something, right? And then if you just keep showing up as the person that you want to be every single day for 6 months or a year, what are they going to remember you as? The thing that you showed up for 364 out of 365 times, or the one time? You know what I mean? Like over, and it might take more than a year. It might take 2 months for people to get past whatever it is going on. So I think just showing up with intention goes a long way. But obviously over the consistency of 10 years, like you build a foundation by doing that, by showing up every single day.
Yeah. The famous sports analogy, like Father Time's undefeated, right? It retires all the greats. Time in content is undefeated. Like you've been doing this for a decade. And to your point, you've had some blips, especially over the last couple of years, stuff that I'm sure you would write down as like things that didn't go well. Mm-hmm. But very small in comparison to 10 years of content. That
sure. Those will be the things I look back on and like, okay, those were, the downs for us. Yeah. But like the reason I'm able to reach a new height now is because of those downs. And I just kept showing up after those things happened.
And you had no bad intentions. I think it's so important. Yeah. It's like the bad will be exposed. Yes, there will be those scammers who are selling you ebooks. By the way, buy our ebook, link in bio. And those people, they may cash out. They may have a time. but they won't make it long term.
Right.
There's no chance. They're going to take all that money they made. They're going to buy a Lamborghini. And
there are people, if what people said was true, at any time I've gone through some bad shit and what people write about it or what people say about it, if those bad things were true, I would never still be able to show up here again. You know, but because they're not true, I keep showing up as the opposite of what they're saying every day. You eventually get past it. And
you've been doing YouTube. Is that the first platform you say you created on? Blogging?
No, I definitely blogged for probably like a year or so.
Okay.
I want to say my first YouTube video was probably like 2014. I probably blogged 2012, 2013.
So 8-9 years of YouTube. Something that I've actually found extremely interesting, and we'll also segue into our next topic, is I was listening to Marquise Brownlee, who was on Colin and Smear. I was listening to, who else was on? I was listening to just some other content. And what I found most notable was that any YouTuber or YouTube-centric business, their confidence level in that platform surviving there is no question in the world. Meanwhile, you have other platforms, Snap for me, obviously Twitter has been the major one, Instagram's a huge platform, TikTok's a huge one. There's 100% questions on monetization long-term, on algorithm, on all this stuff. But I just found it very interesting that YouTube is the platform that any YouTuber is like, yeah, this will be around forever.
100%.
What are your thoughts?
I never questioned the long-term impact of YouTube on our business. The other things I do, like, okay, we're making money off TikTok now. I'm almost like not projecting it into our future plan because in a year or 2 years, it might not be there. But YouTube's always like, okay, that will be our biggest marketing platform. That will be the way I communicate with everybody. We will have ups and downs view-wise throughout the season, but it'll always come back to YouTube. It's always YouTube. So
do you think that podcast, what do you think is the next closest? Do you think it's written? Do you think it's podcast?
Probably podcast, yeah. I would say in some instances, podcasts are definitely above YouTube, but podcast feels like there are people who listen to podcasts and there are people who just don't. Right. But like, I think for the most part, everyone uses YouTube in one way or another.
It's a search engine. That is what they were talking about a lot of, which is like it's the second biggest search engine in the world. Facebook has offered Marquise, millions of dollars to post his content on Facebook, and he's like, yeah, the viewership is great. I'm sure they can send it to a lot of people, but if someone wants to look up a tech product, like they're going to go to YouTube. It is now ingrained in
everyone
society.
uses YouTube in a different way. Some people view it to listen to fantasy football content. Some people like watching vlogs. Some people want to learn how to do things. With podcasts, like you could build just as genuine of connection with a podcaster for sure as a YouTuber. However, you don't have a lot of like the inbound other external things that YouTubers get the luxury of having. Where like if I'm trying to solve a problem, I'm not going to the Apple podcast app and be like, how to do this. Right? I want like visual instruction or at the least like written with pictures or something in there. So I think they're kind of out of a disadvantage. But in terms of like their width isn't as wide, but I think their depth can be close to what YouTube is for sure.
It's why I thought TikTok, and we talked about this a while ago, was potentially the biggest threat to YouTube because they were becoming a search engine of sorts. I don't think the content has fully gotten there, but I do know, like, just from talking to fans, like, they'll go to TikTok for their news. Most of it is just they get it through scrolling, like, as opposed to I would go to Twitter and search something. YouTube, I would go to see how to do something.
I will too. It's like, it is definitely like real-time stuff. Like, if I'm looking for something to do in New York, I'm just like, fucking fun brunch spots in New York. Like I can do that on Google, but like it's all going to be from like 100. Time Out New York shit from like 2 years ago. I'm like, that's not, you know what I mean? Like I will for like more pop culture type of stuff. Like I do think TikTok definitely has a time and place for that.
Yeah. And they're obviously trying to attack that long form content. I do wonder, and I guess it was, did Quibi, do you remember Quibi? They launched during the pandemic.
Kind of, yeah.
Did they do completely vertical content? My thought process is there a world where you create 20-minute YouTube videos, but really 20-minute TikTok videos, but instead of just posting them as, horizontal, you're actually posted vertically. Do people want to engage 20 minutes of vertical? I think your guys' trivia is a good example of like, they'll engage, 4 or 5 minutes of it, but you wouldn't stretch. Would you ever post the YouTube fully vertical? Probably not.
No, we've done stuff like that. We will have like trivias that will go up for like 8 or 9 minutes, and people will definitely watch it, but it's definitely tough, and I do wonder if that is it. Like I think we're so programmed to movies, TV, like even YouTube you could put up on the TV, but you can't really do that with TikTok in a way that's native to watching it. There's no comfortable way to watch it with like multiple people where everybody can like
I will say, I mean, look, streaming has now moved people to phones. I was with Marlon, and it just blew my mind. He was like, I don't watch TV. I watch everything on my phone, even live television.
That's wild.
He'll sit on the couch with his TV there and watch on his phone.
Do you do that?
No.
Okay.
No,
That's
this
like
is
psycho,
second
right?
screen to
Yeah.
me. Yeah. But hey, maybe, I mean, there's obviously people out there. You start on the laptop, then you get down to the phone. But
Well, it's weird
everyone has
because
different user
I
behaviors.
don't know. I think about like Apple products and how, okay, when like phones first came out, they were huge and clunky. And then it became cool to make them as small as fucking possible, right? Like everyone wanted phones that were this big. And then Apple, the iPhone, started getting like a little bit bigger, a little bit bigger. And they're doing that same thing with their laptops now, where it was like we had our 13-inch Pro. Then they introduced the 14, the 15, and the 16. And the bigger the screen gets, the more I fucking love it. And eventually it's going to be the size of this fucking
TV?
I'm going to have a TV. And it all like, it's just very odd, the human behavior behind like the things they think they want until they realize like I don't know. I think about the iPhone too. Like the iPhone is the most popular product of all time, right? And what is the biggest? Okay, if a phone tries to break in right now to just like the phone industry, how do they do it? I almost think the camera is like the key feature of
I feel
the phone
like that's
at
what
these days.
Google really hits on. And for me, even someone who films live content where the camera is quite literally like the gold
Like
mine,
how can you rethink the phone though?
that wouldn't do it for me.
Like in order to top Apple, like the most used feature on our phone has to be the camera, just in general. And I think like
It's probably speed,
that feels like
not service. I'm telling you,
the speed of the phone.
when I get a new phone, that is when I am most engaged in my phone because it is
fast.
moving, and you feel like you are moving, and then
It's almost like when you get an update too on the phone for the first like 10 seconds. I'm like, oh, this is sick.
Yeah, and then it dies down. But if someone kept that speed that made you feel like you were, because it makes you feel honestly more productive. It makes you feel more efficient.
So Noah, my friend Noah Banks, he does tech videos. So he's been reviewing a lot of new phones that are non-Apple phones. And he had one that was the fold over. So you have two screens, which was actually really cool. And then he had one that, I don't know if you've seen the commercial for it, where it actually like flips in half. Okay. So it becomes half the size of it.
Are they both Google phones or they're Android?
Well, maybe one Google, one Android. I don't really remember. The one that was like flipped over was really cool because I thought it gave you multiple screens now. You have more screen time. The other one, I didn't like at all. He seems to like it. It's like very miniature. He was like, the bigger screen one makes me want to consume content. The other one makes me want to get off of the phone. And I was like, okay, there's a give and take there. Like I would actually like to kind of like carry around a flip phone for like a week and just see how it makes me feel not wanting to be on it. But I wonder, like, there's eventually going to come a time where the phone market gets penetrated in some way, and it's gonna come from thinking about like.
Do you think someone will?
Well, I guess the question is like, does someone penetrate the phone market before phones themselves
Just evolve.
Just before phones kind of die out? In a sense,
Wow.
Like if everyone's using like VR headsets as like the way they communicate, like that would be another alternative path for phones to be a dead thing.
I guess the last question is there an incentive for them? Is there an incentive for Apple to essentially evolve the phone? You know what I mean? Like to improve it. Because what do they actually gain
So
from
the
that?
VR headset, I could see being there, like how Gary Vee says, put yourself out of business.
Right.
The VR headset, I think, is fucking awesome. It is like one of the coolest things I've seen. I can't wait to get one. And that will be a thing where like people at first like, this is too big. And then they'll figure out a way like they did with phones to minimize it. And then they're like, wait, actually, you know what I mean? They'll find the middle ground eventually. I could see that product. It is a little crazy. Like, I don't know if everyone wants to wear headphones, but like we say this with every piece of technology. People don't want to do this. They don't want to do this, whatever. And then they do it because it's convenient for their life. The biggest threat I think to like phones in general would probably be the VR headsets. That's how I see it. Because you see like FaceTime pops up, calls, you can do all your work from it. It's just a bigger screen of a phone that you don't actually have to carry around a bigger screen for.
I did see myself feeling screen fatigue yesterday. And that's what I wonder is, what is the version of something that we're not constantly looking at a screen? I don't think the human body is quite adapted to be built that way. No. That's another thing where, maybe people will actually want to be on their phone less and they're viewing on a screen from far away. Because like this is bright and it's in your face. The TV, you're still looking at a screen, but it is further.
It's so hard. Okay, if you asked 100 random people in New York right now, straight up, would you rather be on your phone more or less? Do you think anyone says more?
No.
Okay. But like no one's actions actually dictate that.
Of course.
So there has to be, they're either just lying to themselves or there's like an extremely strong addictive nature to the phones that like we're going to end up paying for probably in like 30, 40 years, you know? So that stuff is like stuff we can't, it's unfortunate because we're not going to know until we're probably, you know, fucking old and in our rocking chairs. But
on episode 9,000 of big content. The segue I was going to make is, you know, YouTube feels stable. Twitter, we joked about Threads being dead. I mean, that's not a joke. That's quite literally the truth. But I've noticed, and me personally, which is why I want to gauge you, to me, I was in love with the For You page. It felt like it really nailed. And now it feels like my Twitter reach is lower. It feels like I'm not seeing any content that I really, really want to see. It feels like we've now moved into like this thought leader expert phase of life. The stuff from 18 hours ago, I don't know why, just isn't the stuff I really want to be seeing. Now, I will caveat that by saying once NFL season begins, which is in a few days now, I'll likely be back on the following tab where I'll want to be in the constant conversation around the game, which isn't what For You allows for. I don't know. What's your Twitter experience? Have you noticed anything?
To be honest with you, I haven't really like been on social much, like just consuming random stuff. Like I'm almost never on TikTok anymore. I don't go on Twitter often. What I think for like the For You page is actually like what I kind of want my following page to be, where it actually shows the people that I want to see, but for some reason I don't see them on my fucking following page.
Now I'm not seeing those people on For You. For You now feels fully TikTok For You page, where I see the people I'm following like one in every 20 posts, and that's not what I want to be seeing.
Yeah, like my For You is now like the BDG guys, like you, Pete, Brett, like the people that I actually want to consume what the fuck they're doing, but I feel like I never see them on the following page.
Because they're not that, we're not tweeting that often. I think that's the point of it.
Yeah, probably. I don't know. I haven't really noticed much of a difference, but again, it's these algorithms that just, they show you, I guess, what you want, but it's not what you want.
That's what I'm curious about, because Twitter, until Elon made this change, was really focused on timely and news and being in the moment. And now they're seemingly falling into the For You trap, or I don't know if it's a trap, but it is a very particular decision that they're making, and I'm curious if that's the right platform for it.
I kind of like it, to be honest. Okay. I don't know how good the algorithm actually is, but I do like the idea of like, because I remember a couple of years ago when I started following, I was following like, it was all like fantasy football people for the most part. It's like a couple friends, and I was like, oh my God, I'd like it felt like I was like underneath the ocean. I'd like a breath of fucking fresh air every once in a while. This gives me the opportunity to be like, let me see other people. Let me see something else people are talking about. And I do find myself hitting like the not interested in this kind of thing. And I feel like it kind of tweaks it well.
Is there advice you'd give to content creators that they could curate their Twitter content? Because Twitter was always the hardest platform to grow, because quite literally there wasn't a discover kind of source. It was, yes, you could get retweeted if you put it out, and then when Threads really picked up, not Threads the app, you started to put out Twitter Threads, people would retweet it, and that was how a ton of people grow. Now it feels like you can actually grow pretty organically if you come in with a Twitter strategy. That's kind of my fear. Is I don't love Twitter for just being like a thought leader Twitter thread type. Long form content's being pushed more, but for the creator, what would you suggest? Do you see it as an opportunity, or you still think too hard?
I mean, I think so. I think like every platform, like the best of the best, the creme de la creme can make anything into a business opportunity, and you see it with the people that are hitting on the threads and stuff. But I personally don't feel like I have a lot of great advice for this, just because I don't really use Twitter from a business standpoint. Like, sure, we'll promote shit every once in a while, but like, I'm more of just like getting on there and seeing what people are up to. Sometimes breaking news, sometimes it just is what it is.
It just is what it is.
I actually didn't even mean that from me, like Nicky Leaks breaking news. I just meant like breaking news, like analysis, and stuff like that. Yeah.
I got you.
I almost broke something yesterday. That would have been bad for the brand. Yeah.
Why?
It just wasn't solidified enough and didn't.
It
didn't pull true.
I'm telling you. The misses. No one cares about the misses. They remember the hits. You do. You get enough right.
I remember the misses of other people.
You're trying to be 100% guy. I'm just trying to shoot like 80% from the field.
Because then people know when I fucking say something. Yeah, that's it.
Are you 1 for 1, or you?
Just 1 for 1.
Trying to think if I have any Ravens news for you that I could give you. Problem is,
so I had something scoop on Jonathan Taylor yesterday, and I was telling them in the office, and they're like, Jack gave it to you, and I'm like, why wouldn't Jack keep it for himself if he was going to break it?
What was it?
Can't
reveal it. Well, it passed.
Well, it didn't pass.
Oh.
I can't break it. The person told me that I couldn't talk about it.
Oh, okay.
That's why.
Yeah, that is part of
I'll just say the JT news is not dead yet.
Yeah. Okay. All right, Punchline launches on YouTube. Punchline with Marlon Humphrey, our new podcast, in case you missed it. YouTube did 17,000 views first episode, and talk about just feeling revitalized, because our YouTube strategy for SnapBack Sports has definitely left us, I would use, for a lack of a better term, depressed, because we feel like we're putting in good content. We know that there's a ton of stuff. But I think this is the first time where we're genuinely seeing, if you put out the right content on YouTube, then and you create the right product, the YouTube algorithm will find the audience for you. And I think that was just refreshing to see. So that's kind of my first thought. I mean, from what you've seen, what are your thoughts?
You put on the notes. What did you write on the notes?
I wrote 17,000 views. That's the long form episode. Clips not performing, which I'll talk about, and then press strategy and getting picked up.
Okay, I thought for the most part, like the energy you had when you wrote that was like you didn't think it was going well.
No, it went really well. Okay, 17K views.
I was gonna say
was insane.
From everything that I've felt and seen, just as a consumer that just like passively uses social, I feel like it's going phenomenal.
Phenomenal.
For the amount of work that you guys have in a very small amount of time.
100%.
Yeah,
we had 800 subs when we launched it, right? So to get 17,000 views, and so today, so we're recording this on August 30th, which is a Wednesday. This is episode 2 launch today, and episode 2 is off to a hotter start than 1. We were curious, like, okay, did we hit first episode?
This is just that like announcement type of thing. Yeah.
But we only have 1,500 subs now going into this one. So how do we get back to 17K views? The start has been great. We'll see how it tracks throughout. But yes, it's going to. I wanted to add. This is because Marlon asked me. I was filling him in on how it went, and he said, "What's the best performing metric and what's the worst performing metric?" And I said to him, "The best one is 17,000 views on YouTube is phenomenal. Like what we compare that to, Trae Young's first podcast, like 4,000 views in its first week. I don't have the numbers from the other athlete pods, but like that was one that we were super. I mean, Josh Norris and Colt McCoy's 22,000 views. Theirs is coming from an audience of 60,000 YouTube subs. So felt really good about that. The bad metrics were we had like our first 5 or 6 TikTok clips really take off, and then for some reason they're like not hitting as much as the long form.
I'm telling you that whole thing with like people saying back in the day, like TikTok really pushes the first few to get you excited. Yeah. So it's every one of the interns ones, like first TikToks they did went for like 100K, and it gets you riled up chasing that. I think that's such a real and wild marketing tactic for them to get creators on the platform. It's so smart.
But Marquise Brownlee actually talked exactly about this on the Colin and Samir show. He said, my first TikTok did like 33 million views. And then I was like, am I just going to be chasing this feeling? And then the next ones get like 5,000 or whatever, something crazy like that. So yeah, I totally know, like I'm not sweating it. That was just the note was like, wow, this did really, really well in long form. And the clips aren't doing as well as they did at the start. But it's just going to
that's just how it is on these short forms now. Like some of them are going to hit, some of them are going to miss. But overall, what it looks like from a consumer standpoint is like it feels extremely well run. It feels like you guys have a whole company basically behind you. And you guys are a small team. But if you told me like Barstool produced this for you and they had like 3 producers and their team working on it, I'd be like, okay, looks right. Sounds right.
And even though you're the closest to it, right? So you do know all the different things that we are putting into it. But I do feel like from the outside looking in, it gives that feel as well.
100%.
And even though people aren't thinking about it because they don't do content, subconsciously, that 100% plays into it.
It goes along.
From the
if you had shitty camera, if you had like all that stuff, people would be like, what is this? But you guys, I feel like you haven't missed a beat with it. Like, I know the amount of prep that went into it for you, and I'm like really happy. You know, nothing is like fucked up the show for you guys and just the clips in general. I think I think you guys are doing phenomenal and just going forward with it. I'll say with Marlon, you're gonna have to. He's like a wild personality and very out there. You're gonna have to really like peel the layers off of him. And make sure that he's giving you the juice. You know what I mean?
He is.
Like the news and stuff, like the breaking stuff. Because I could see how he was pulling back on like the injuries. Like, I can't say nothing because I'm in trouble. You know, that kind of shit.
So that one was interesting. And this is all stuff that like we're just learning. He's been unfiltered. Like that is his thing. The episode today is just him ripping on Trump and Russell Wilson beef. And like he gets into it.
Ooh, okay.
The injury stuff I learned was it's actually a contract thing. And so we got a couple of those things we had to like cut, right? And so it looks like I'm pushing him and he's not giving it, but a lot of that stuff is just like
That's what I figured, and that's the tough part because it's like your thing is like we want to be the most unfiltered, and then it's like
there are definitely certain things that we can't do, because at the end of the day, no matter what, his $90 million contract is not going to allow him to say it.
You got to pay more.
But even I think that is interesting. And it would be interesting to me to talk about that on the show with him, about certain things we can't speak on. Because I think that even gives context to people. And like, look, we'll let you know when he's coming back. But the Ravens cannot. The Ravens have to do the injury report. And it is literally a competitive advantage that they secure in his contract. So it's just very interesting.
No, I thought that was an interesting part too when he was talking about like the Steelers injury report. He's like, Big Ben would be on it. Oh, look, he's fine. And then the week we play the Ravens, he's on the injury report. And we knew the big fella was going to like shit like that is really cool because you don't hear that from anyone else.
Yeah. No, he's been a star, and he's also getting into it, which has been the biggest thing, right?
Yep.
So to start, it's like, hey, will you post this? Hey, will you do this? Now, unprompted, we got up to 103 on the charts. I said something to him. He's like, fuck that. Like, I'm not proud of 103.
And you could see, like, when Roan and Pat Bev started theirs, like, their chemistry, I was like, I don't know how this is going to work out. Like, I know Roan's a beast, so, like, he'll probably make it work in some capacity. Now, it's
Roan's a stud.
Yeah.
It's the buy-in from Pat Bev.
100%.
And that's what it is. And I think that was my biggest worry, was the injury. Is like, he was into it in the offseason, and I think we wanted to carry that momentum about his excitement for the season, but then you're injured. So you don't want to talk about, like, silly shit, right? Because you can't play.
Yeah.
But he's found a way. He understands, it's only going to be a few weeks, whatever it may be. And
it's probably just a cool opportunity as well. Like, if you think about it from an optimistic standpoint, like understanding the player mindset when they're going through an injury. Like, we as fantasy people are like, oh man, this is going to linger all year. Like, did they know now that they're playing at like 75% probably the entire rest of the year? Yeah. And what does that mean for next? Like, all those kind of things are just unsaid parts of the NFL game that we really know nothing about.
And I think, we talked about, you presented to me, you were like, you want to be the first or the best, right? The creator side. And I'll say one of my most proud parts of through 2 episodes is I think there's only been 1 or 2 comments, which are like, who's this random white guy? Mm-hmm. And most of them have been like, there's actually a good rapport with him, and we're finding like our vibe in it. And I think that's important. But what's the angle, right? And I said to you, I didn't want to be the creator, athlete podcast, because I don't think being first is necessarily that important. And then I think of the Kelsey pod, because in season they're giving us a lot of really good content. But I really am just hammering this unfiltered side. And, of course, like we said, some stuff we won't be able to touch on. But for the most part, I'm going to just continue to push him, and we're going to be as open and honest as we can.
No, I think it's off to a roaring start. And I think it's the way I'm looking at it is probably the way that you felt about, like, trivia when we first started. Yeah. That's kind of how I'm looking at this podcast. There's been no glimpses or, like, wavering where I'm like, I don't know about that stuff. I'm like, this is done well.
Well, there could be an exchange of equity trivia for Punchline.
Okay.
The one thing that
are you guys like operating as a business?
What
did you like set up Punchline Pod as like an LLC or anything?
No, it's just within SnapBack Sports. So with Marlon, he's talent, within the brand, and then he's got rev share on certain things specific to Punchline. We've categorized it internally, but it's all just still under one umbrella. Maybe we should separate in case he says something crazy and we end up in a lawsuit. The one thing that I think we touched on last week, I don't fully recall, is this intentional strategy with pickups, right? One of the major things that I know that gives that sense of all put together, it's going really well, is you're now seeing it on other platforms, not curated by us, right? When it comes from us, the best moments, best clips, right? It's like, okay, sure, that's great. But when Dav Kleiman posts and it gets 2 million views and it feels like it's naturally being picked up, that stuff is 100% not organic. And I know that might surprise people, but I am DMing Dav content that I think is going to be good for him. I am DMing all the Ravens personalities on Twitter, fan accounts, personalities, influencers, whatever, content that I think fits their brand. Like, every single episode we are going forward, and we have highlighted 6 clips, but not only the 6 clips we're going to create, but the 6 moments that we want those people to be aware of. Then I'm cutting them, dropping them in Dropbox for them, and sending it out to them. And we talked about, I know last time, like, if we did have a joking breaking news that made sense for you, like, or a fantasy thing, we would seed you with that content. You need to attack it that way, and then from there, it does get picked up organically, and now we've got 6 articles about us. The Ravens picked it up and used his injury update, like, on their homepage.
I was going to say, because I'll see random things around social and be like, via Punchline Pod, I'm like, I get a little fist bump.
But that stuff, most people just assume that, like, Dav Kleiman or Schefter or whoever picks something up, they're not listening to an hour of every athlete podcast, all this. You need to send it to them, and you need to know what content they like to post, what performs for them. You got to do their job for them. What that's done for us, though, has done wonders. So it's something to think about. If you have an angle, if you have an interesting piece of content, it essentially has to be like, would this person pick this up organically or naturally to where no one would question it, right? And I think that's what we're doing, and that has really helped us a ton. And I just think, maybe it doesn't apply to the smaller creator as much right now.
I think it could,
but it could.
I think about like Noah, who did content for us for a while. He started to make like his own metrics and stuff that he used that nobody in the fantasy space was using, and I would consume his stuff and be like, oh, it just does feel kind of like predictive. Like some of the stuff he's saying, like no other person would even think about touching these 3 or 4 players, and then they all hit. I'm like, okay, you have something here that like no one else is looking at. I've had people send me like Excel sheets or Google sheets and be like, here's a stat that like I found that I feel to be predictive that no one else is using. And I'll kind of like keep that on the back burner and like monitor it and be like, okay, there is a little bit of an advantage here. And if I find it to be useful, like I will relay to that to the audience, and then maybe start working with that person on a higher capacity. So it's like, if you want to break through, it's like the skill level obviously has to be there, or the audience that you have has to be there, something like that. You have to offer a value prop, but if you could find something that would be useful to my audience, you giving it to other people, their audience, things like that is, really like reverse engineering what works for that person.
No, I think the fantasy space is a good example of it and a good way to do it. So just wanted to share that stuff. We'll keep you guys updated on all of that. The last thing is that I did an interview with the Information. They post about tech and VC.
With that blonde girl?
Kara. You know her?
I don't know her, but how did you get that interview?
Through Harrison.
Okay.
Like he just shot her around and we talked to her.
That's what I did too.
Yeah.
And then she just never hit me back.
Okay. I mean, she also didn't use some of like we sent her talent that we did, whatever.
Okay.
And then I talked to her for 30 minutes. She used one sentence that, Alex was like, dude, why'd you use that? Like, it made you look bad. I'm like, no, you're not understanding what I'm saying. But the point is, she's writing an article about the creator economy and I guess investors who are pulling money and creator economy startups that are failing, tools that are failing in the creator economy. And she was just trying to get a pulse on the creator economy, essentially, from a super high level. The only reason I bring this up today is because while the agreement is that, and the statement I made was like, no, the creator economy is not dying. The people who invested in those companies, they just invested in bad business, and they're mad that like they made a bad investment, and they're taking it out on the creator. Every other metric shows the creator economy is going in a positive direction. But I will say, there's no doubt in my mind that the creator economy has taken a hit like the rest of the market, and it is tougher out there. And the fact that a story is being written about it does show that there's issues. But I think any issues within an industry probably mean it's a real legit industry. So we always do check-ins, but what is your feeling? And all right, if she had spoken to you about the creator economy, what do you think you would have shared?
I think like any industry that becomes popular, everything seems like it's going to work forever.
Right.
And then it stops, and then the creators or the people in an industry that are worthwhile or doing cool, innovative things or have a great product or have great content, whatever it is, are the ones that are going to stay afloat. Like, not everybody deserves to be alive in an industry, regardless of what it is, if your quality is not up to par. So, like, content itself is so new, right? And that's why I was thinking about, we had a conversation a bunch of weeks ago on one of these episodes where it's like, okay, having 100,000 on TikTok is not a big deal anymore, but it's still like it's like you're just a very mid-level creator. Like having a certain threshold for middle-level creators who are not making money yet is like still a level. We haven't narrowed down like the creator economy at all yet. We're still very top level. Like you're either viral, you're either making a business out of it, or you're like an influencer. Yeah. There's only like 3 or 4 categories, which is just so not the way it works anymore. It needs to be, I think, more clearly defined into like 20, 25, 30 different like almost little niches or industries or whatever it is. And I don't know the right terminology for it, but like, of course, not everybody's going to be able to make it as an individual creator. Like, it's not an easy thing to do. You need luck, you need skill, you need perseverance, you need hard work. So to say the creator economy is dead is no, but the bad creators, yeah, sure, they're dead. That was only a matter of time.
Yeah, that's
you know
like anything in the world.
Exactly.
Like the bad talent is not going to perform.
Yeah.
It is interesting you say that because I'm out on Fire Island and I love going out there because no one knows, like, no one knows about me out there, right? The people I interact with, like, I just play basketball with them and they have no clue. Because of, Hallie started an Instagram for this basketball tournament, and then I'm posting about it, so now people are starting to see, and now the conversation is like, oh, like, what do you do? Who are you? I don't even know what to say because there isn't this defined, like...
Your identity is not there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, just my identity. I just don't think I'm a creator. Like, I don't think I'm an influencer. But then they see I have 120,000 Instagram followers and a blue check, and they just assume, like, oh, you're an influencer, right? But it's because this industry isn't very reformed. Whereas if you go into any corporate setting, it's like, yeah, marketing team, marketing manager, marketing coordinator, marketing whatever.
So you just say I'm in sports media, like I cover sports.
No. That's
you
how
handled
I do
it. You
but people, right? I have learned how to. But people just they don't know because we are still so early in this.
It's because everyone like tries to fake being a certain thing, and like we're seeing it kind of wipe itself out now.
Yeah.
In a certain sense.
I guess because let's say you did have 120,000 Instagram followers, like the typical, I would say I'm the atypical person who has that. They probably could be bucketed fairly easy. Oh, you're a fashion influencer. Yeah. Like it seems pretty easy. So
for the most part, yeah, I think we'll just
I'm not a sports
continue
influencer.
to see it like chop up more and more. I don't know.
Do you think you're a creator still? Okay.
Yeah.
What makes you a creator?
All I want to do is wake up and create shit.
Do you think that, but you're not, how often are you posting to your own stuff?
Very rare.
That's why I'm giving you the pushback and actually thinking through. Like, you can call yourself a creator. I don't really care. Do whatever.
If BDG was shut down, I would just start posting my personal stuff every day.
Right.
Yeah. I have a priority for things.
Okay, so you're a creator for BDG. Mm-hmm. You also happen to run the show.
That's probably the way I look at it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Like if tomorrow I came in, we had a president of BDG, and they're like, "You're no longer creating, you're doing operations." I'll be like, "I'm quitting." That'd be the first thing I would say, like straight up. I would leave and I'd start making content on my own.
Okay. Yeah, because I've been thinking about doing like just YouTube vlogs on my own personal. Not that I need another thing to go on here, but I've never thought of myself as like a documenter like you do. But I could see, I'm starting to think longer term the benefits of it.
Yeah, and it's not like I don't do it because I think I'm like good. It's just like
it's what you do.
It's the way I want to do it. Yeah, it's
like an artist, I guess.
Sure. Yeah.
If I draw on something, I could call myself an artist. Doesn't mean I'm very good.
Okay.
Buy my NFT art on Nick's Shopify, where you can find
the blog post we originally referenced.
I will be, the last thing on the list was football is back. I'm going to be in Kansas City next week. So
Thursday?
On Tuesday through Thursday is the issue. So we will figure out what we can.
Maybe we take a break because I can.
I know, right?
I'd be okay with it.
Can we talk about that real quick? A little therapy session?
Sure.
It felt like you were like over the pod for a minute there.
It wasn't.
Can you elaborate on that?
It was just we're so fucking busy this time of the year, but it's not like an overwhelming or anxious busy. It's like I can't wait to like get into it. Yeah. And because I'm so hyper focused on it, this is a different speed for me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's almost like a speed that I don't know if I need to slow. It's like me hitting the brakes a little bit.
Yeah.
Which is weird because it's an hour a week, but sometimes, we'll find myself like being like Monday morning, oh fuck, I didn't make the thumbnail for it. I'm in the middle of like doing this other video for BDG already. So it's kind of those things. And I've always thought of myself as someone now at this point that's okay being like, I don't necessarily need it right now. Mm-hmm. I don't want to force things right now. And this wasn't like I want to stop doing the pod at all. It was just like the end of August, early September is just a wild time for us where I'm like, okay, I don't need to force anything that doesn't fit exactly how I feel or need right now, you know? And I mean, fitting in 40 fucking minutes into the middle of a Wednesday is fine.
Yeah, I don't think it's that. I do think it's that balance of consistency versus not. Mm-hmm. And do we think if we're going to, skip 4 episodes this year, is it a big deal? No, but being consistent for our people out there.
No, I get what you're saying. It wasn't anything that I like actively wanted to do or anything, but it was just like I tried not to judge myself to be like, okay, this week I'm just like so busy, I can't do the app. You know what I mean? Like get over it and push forward. And because this was always the secondary just piece of me. This wasn't, and of course we try to put organization behind it and like promote it and put it out there and like grow it, but if we did none of those things, like I would still have a good time just sitting here for an hour with you once a week, just like chopping it up like this.
Yeah, I think we've agreed we've both enjoyed the slow growth.
Yeah.
Like, we don't mind that at all. But we'll continue being consistent. All right, well, good luck to everyone. Football season is here. We're about to get working. Are you sweating? I mean, the fan works for me.
Yeah, it's not hitting me. It's hitting you, not
me.
me.
That's why. You got to be sweating. All right, till next time. Did anyone share with their grandmother?
I didn't get any videos, no.
Damn.
Got nothing.
That's brutal.
It's ungrateful. Now we're dialed in. We swapped out the lights.
Is that a good decision?
My friend Noah said to do it, and I trust him with my fucking life.
He
said this is better than the one we had. And they had one, the big-ass one I had was better for...
Who's your boy?
Maybe the AC people.
Let's go.
I told them I'm not paying rent until they...
Hey, Tommy.
Yeah, broke again last week. And they're like, yeah, we'll get someone in to fix it in a couple days or whatever. I'm like, I'm not paying rent until you fix it.
Yeah.
I threatened them with lawyers.
Did you?
I've done that like 10 times already.
Yeah, I feel like they don't
give a fuck.
Yeah.
The problem is, I think, when you...
Can't you just not... It's not that you threaten them not to pay. Shouldn't you just threaten them, I'm only paying for the months or for the days that... Like, I would prorate it myself.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the problem with, like, the contracts, I think, commercially, is that they probably have something in there that says as long as the landlord deems it reasonable in the office or whatever. But I've had a thermostat in here and it's over 80
It ain't
degrees,
reasonable.
No,
you can't work in here.
No. It makes me so fucking tired by the end of the day. It's tough.
I'm about to fall asleep right now.
I'm down. You want to just nap for this one?
30 minutes.
All right, we're going to do a meditation session today. Yeah. So I feel like anytime we get the legal stuff involved, I'm also like our lease is up soon. You know, I'm not going to re-sign unless you fix it. You know, all that. I'm throwing the fucking kitchen sink at them, and they're not throwing anything back at me. So.
Yeah. The funniest part is all you're asking for is just air.
This is right. Like,
in the middle of a New York summer. Like,
the worst part was like it broke again like 2 days before all those people flew out for the weekend. We had like 20 people in the office. It got up to like 84 on the thermostat. Yeah, we cooked in here. Yeah, it was tough.
Not the right type of cooking.
No. Yeah, I'm gonna scare that guy by yelling, "Welcome bike" right now.
If you're energized enough, yeah.
That's my goal right now.
Yeah. All right.